A very good evening and a warm welcome to our second edition of UBC News Tonight on this 20th day of March 2026. I'm Lauryn Masika Kazimoto together with my colleague on sign language interpretation, Mohammed Mugalu, would welcome you. We start off with our first story tonight. President Lauryn Masika has called upon teachers and parents to guide the school-going children to select their careers in science and technology because they offer practical skills that are required in the current job market. The message was contained in a speech delivered by the Prime Minister Robin Anabanja at the National Career Guidance Day at Kololo Independence Grounds.
As Muslims across the country were celebrating al-Fitr, the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robin Anabanja, was representing President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni at the National Career Guidance Day held at Kololo Independence Ground. Often pupils and students throughout their education career take up subjects without proper guidance on how their future will hold. It is against this background that the Ministry of Education and Sports set up a National Career Guidance Day to sensitize parents, teachers and students on the best options that are marketable in the job market.
The emphasis on science education is because through science we are able to tame nature for our own survival and prosperity. We need engineers, doctors, nurses, science teachers, etc. Uganda's natural resources cannot exploit themselves. Gold cannot mine itself out of the ground. Electricity cannot harness itself from the river and come walking to your house. Somebody must harness that electricity.
The President further called upon teachers and parents across the country to guide their school-going children to select their careers in science and technology because they offer practical skills that are required in the current job market.
I want to appeal to the parents and the teachers to guide our children to select careers in science and technology. However, even the students that have graduated in humanities can reorient themselves towards acquiring technical skills and competences that are required in the job market.
The Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, was represented by the State Minister for Primary Education, Moriku Kadichu.
The world of work that you are preparing to enter is rapidly changing, especially in the areas of science, technology, innovation, and artificial intelligence. These are transforming the way people learn, the way people work, and the way people solve problems. Artificial intelligence, in particular, presents significant opportunity. When you use it well, it can support learning, it can support research, creativity, and solve problems, and innovation across many fields.
She, however, cautioned the young people to guard against the misuse of new technologies.
I wish to caution you on the responsible use of technology. Technology, artificial intelligence, and other technological platforms can be very useful tool when you apply to learning, research, innovation, and positive engagement. However, it can also become destructive when it is misused through overdependence, misinformation, and exposure to non-factual and inappropriate content.
The First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, has urged students to pay attention to what they are learning so as to shape their future. She was presiding over the fundraising ceremony at Seta College in Mukono for the laboratory new block, where she contributed 100 million shillings. Seta College in Nachisunga Mukono district has welcomed the First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, as it fundraised towards the construction of a laboratory block. The First Lady, Janet Museveni, called upon stakeholders to nurture children, imparting on them integrity and cultural values for their future.
Prioritize guidance and counseling for all learners, as well as learner participation in co-curricular and project work activities to mitigate issues of psychosocial nature. To our learners gathered here, and those who will receive this message through the media, I appeal to you to work hard and to focus on your studies. You are growing up in a generation faced with various distractions that come with the downside of globalization and the digital world. A generation which has gradually devalued the good morals.
She advised students to desist from strikes and urged teachers and students to protect school property.
Among the student community, it is disheartening to hold fundraising drives of this nature and
report the cause.
It's about acknowledging where God has picked us from and coming back home. So this was a place of transformation for my life. So there are many students we should look at the register and get them, because they can really support us.
As a ministry, we are committed to continue working with all schools, especially the USE Upolet schools, to develop them into great schools.
The principal, Udaya Muchuak, said science students have performed better than before.
Started in 1955, and therefore the existing laboratory is very small and insufficient for the big number of learners that we have at this time.
Muslims across Uganda today joined the global Islamic community in celebrating Eid with main prayers held at the Gaddafi National Mosque in Old Kampala. The prayers were led by the Mufti of Uganda, Sheikh Ramadan Mubajje, who commended the faithful for successfully observing the holy month of Ramadan.
Muslims today gathered at Gaddafi National Mosque, Old Kampala, for Eid Day prayers. The prayers were led by the Mufti of Uganda, Sheikh Ramadan Mubajje, who urged Muslims to maintain the discipline, unity and spiritual values demonstrated during the fasting period.
The Lord who has fed them against hunger, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and made them safe from fear of wars. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stressing that the house of Kaaba is where all faces should be directed.
In his sermon, Sheikh Mubajje also extended prayers to people in Iran who are caught up in the USA-Israel war.
This is the message to our brothers in the Arab and the Muslim world. Please return to Allah. That is the only message. Return to Allah, not the East, not the West. Allah is there.
Additionally, Sheikh Mubajje also called upon the government to support individuals and business communities affected by challenges in markets.
People, the hawkers and street vendors who were evicted, they are crying foul in all cities. And the people are worried that robbery is taking toll again. Please make sure that before you evict or remove those people, they have alternative places. Because whatever government gave them, His Excellency prayed, they got the money, they tried Kweya, but now the Kweya is being suffocated. That is the call that please, before you remove them, get them alternative places. They are ready to comply. Wassalamu alaikum.
The government was represented by the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Dr. Ramadan Gobi.
This is not only a spiritual principle, It is an economic principle. Government's role is to create opportunities. Our responsibility as citizens of Uganda is to identify these opportunities and seize them. To support Ugandans, particularly the Muslims, government continues to invest heavily in wealth creation programs. Currently, government is investing annually 2.4 trillion shillings in wealth creation initiatives in the national budget.
The prayers attracted a diverse congregation, including students and teachers from various schools such as Hilton High School Mukono, who revealed appreciation for the support provided by the school administration during the Ramadan period.
We want to thank the school administration, especially during the breaking of the fasting. The school would provide to us all the items needed for breaking the fasting.
The school is an advanced school, but they have worked together with us to make sure that all Muslims are catered for.
They noted that the conducive environment enabled them to observe fasting while continuing with their studies and praised their institutions for being considerate of their religious obligations.
And we have been praying and fasting, and I've managed to finish the 30 days, and I really thank God. And my prayer request has been that He should enable me have academic excellence and also protect my parents. Those are the core reasons why I always pray and fast, and I pray that by the end of my Form 4 I'll have the best results out of all. We are all working for 9 A's, and I believe by God's grace and through our prayer and fasting it will all come to pass.
At Chibuli Mosque, Muslims gathered this morning for Eid prayers marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan, with messages centered on humility, generosity and unity.
The early morning calm at Chibuli Hill was replaced by a sea of worshippers as family, leaders and community members came together in prayer to celebrate Eid.
Allahu Akbar.
In his sermon, the preacher of the day emphasized the importance of maintaining the values cultivated during Ramadan.
It takes you to understanding that you've got to pray for yourself and the others. So, and the meaning in there is that you have to learn how to relate with others as human beings and at the same time as the creatures. So what you do in Ramadan is that you know, no, now I'm fasting. Why am I fasting? It's because of Allah.
Where are you going? Where are you going after here? Shaitan is calling you to come with me, come with me. Let's go clubbing. Before we were clubbing before Ramadan. Ramadan came, you stopped clubbing. Are you going back today and club again, Shaitan?
The Supreme Mufti Sheikh Mohammed Shaban Garabuzi, in his message, urged believers to carry forward the spirit of giving, kindness and discipline beyond the holy month.
Allah tabarak wa ta'ala yeneri kunidwa mwezi wa Ramadhan mungiro kulongosa nokole bisinga kawo ngiresinga okwere nungi.
Meanwhile, Prince Kasim Nachibenge used his Eid message to address both local and international concerns.
But I wish to thank the government through the Honorable Minister of Kampala and the Lord Mayor for having taken a decision to compensate the flood victims. I'm only saying that the decision you took, implement it like yesterday so that these people can start and rebuild their lives. Some of these people are hand to mouth, some of these people had loans. So the earlier you settle these obligations, the better for all of us. I'm only asking through the Honorable Minister and the Lord Mayor that please carry out due diligence and pay those who really were affected.
Worshippers who attended the prayer also shared messages of hope and responsibility as they marked Eid.
It has been a period of teaching. We have been taught patience. We have been taught to respect Allah, to praise Allah, and we have been very close to Allah. All what we have learned in the month of Ramadan, we should carry it forward.
Sada Mubale, UBC News, Kampala.
The Chief of Defence Forces, Uganda People's Defence Forces, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, has extended goodwill gifts to the Muslim community in Kampala to mark the conclusion of the holy month of Ramadan. The gifts were delivered by Lieutenant Colonel Emmanuel Rutemba, Head of Civil Military Cooperation in the Office of the Senior Presidential Advisor for Special Operations. The gifts included assorted food items to the congregation led by Sheikh Mbogo. The contribution was made in response to a request from Sheikh Mbogo's community. In his message, General Kainerugaba congratulated the Muslim faithful on the successful completion of the holy month of Ramadan, receiving the donation on behalf of the community. Sheikh Mbogo expressed his gratitude to the CDF, and he lauded General Kainerugaba's leadership and acknowledged his generous response to their appeal. Sheikh Ali Ishaq of Masjid Shuab in Kawempe has emphasized Muslims to maintain their discipline and during Ramadan and celebrate Eid in unity and good character. Sheikh Ali Ishaq, the Khatub, was preaching during Eid prayers marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan.
Temusanyuka ne muyita mu kkubo ly'owekitiibwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tugaana oyitamu. Tobuuka ensalosalo za Allah. Abasinga mu wano muyina programs. Mwakoze dda programs n'abakazi be mwata mu Ramadan.
Sigale nga tuyisanga bwe tubadde mu Ramadan. Tubadde tusaddaaka, tuyamba, tuzimba, naddala okumaliriza ennyumba ya Allah eno ey'Ekawempe. Saba Allah abadde batukwasizaako bagende mu maaso tebaggwaamu maanyi, n'abo abadde batannaba nabo bateekemu amaanyi tumalirize ennyumba eyo. Allah asigale nga atusasula mu seera mwereere. Tusaba Allah ow'ekitiibwa atuuse ne mu Ramadan ejja nga tuli balamu, aye tusobole okugisaala. N'ategeera nti essanyu ery'Obusiraamu bw'osanyuka toyitawo obadde osula. N'olwekyo Eid Mubarak. Ate era wano wetukubiriza abantu nti ennaku omukaaga eza sittati tuzisiibe kubanga kya bugagga gy'oli ekiriikiriza omwezi gwa.
The Youth and Children Affairs Minister, Balam Barugahara, has revealed that the number of youth arrested during the January 2026 general elections greatly reduced as compared to those who were netted in the 2021 general polls. Balam attributes this decline to decentralization, sensitization, and political awareness. He, however, pledges to pay attention to the matter concerning suspects arrested alongside Butambala County Member of Parliament, Mwanga Chibumbi.
In the 2021 general elections, security agencies arrested a section of youth, mainly those attached to the National Unity Platform Party, on allegations of political violence.
Let it be on record of Parliament. Those young people will get freedom soon.
They remained under detention and prosecution for a period of more than 3 years, not until the Youth and Children Affairs Minister, Balam Barugahara, brokered their release.
And indeed, Honorable Senyon, wherever you are, the novice, so-called useful idiot, has delivered what you had failed to do.
In 2025, he started a sensitization and guidance tour to avert a reoccurrence of the same.
So I kept telling them, you will face the law by yourself at the right time, and you will answer the charges that you commit by yourself and at the right time. So I kept warning these young people during campaigns, resist, don't be used, politicians are bad.
According to Balam Barugahara, a few individuals were arrested during the January 2026 polls as compared to that of 2021 elections.
I warned many young people towards the election, avoid the groups, avoid being misled. These politicians, their children study in Washington, D.C. Most politicians, their children are in Australia, in Germany, in Canada. They are not here. Others are in Nairobi, in Thika, Ituri. They are not studying here. Maybe the only politician with his children here could be Barugahara. But many of them don't have their children here.
The youth minister still pins opposition politicians for misrepresentation and political capitalization of elections.
On the day of election, Bobi Wine could not even wait for declaration of election. He ran out of Uganda. He has been lying to you, eating fene, those old videos he made, that on this day things he recorded long ago. He's a movie star, he's a film star. So for him, he's in London. He got a home. He has been living with Pastor Charles in London. Now he has moved away from Crandon with Pastor Charles. Now he moved to US. He's in Boston. So he's making money. As well, for you, you are crying out.
Concerning suspects arrested alongside Wutambala County Member of Parliament Mwanga Chivumbi, Balam has pledged to pay attention to the alleged underage arrests and trial.
It has just come to my notice. What I'm going to do, that now that you have told me, I will move out to Chigo to see, to look through, or whichever cell they are keeping them, to look at those young people, know their age, if their parents can come. Actually, since you're a journalist, look for their parents, let their parents come, and we find a way how we can support them. Let us find a way how we can support them so that they are transferred to a children's correction center, because the child is misled. So juveniles should not be with adults. That is wrong. And that one I'm going to follow it up. Just let the parents of those come, and I see how I can support them.
Minister Balam promises to spearhead and facilitate reconciliation on political inmates and the government if voted back into cabinet. Robert Onyango, UBC News.
Once again,
the Uganda Bureau of Statistics has released a 2026 Orphans and Vulnerable Children report, indicating that out of 50.5% Ugandans under 18 years, orphans make up to 13%, with 6 having lost a father, 2.5% a mother, and 4% both parents. UBOS indicates that orphans account for nearly 3 million children.
3 million children were orphans in 2024. What does that mean? It means that you can add some districts like the population of the whole of Acholi, Lango, and Karamoja.
Orphanhood affects children's education and could impact national development. In the 2026 Orphans and Vulnerable Children monograph, UBOS indicates that orphans face heightened risks of child labor, school dropout, and early motherhood.
This report now helps us to look at the extent of the problem, how many of these orphans are in school, how many are dropping out of school, what are the reasons for that, and as a result of that, maybe that now enhances our understanding of the challenge of the OVCs in order that even the planning, even the budgeting can improve.
For every 50.5% of Ugandans, at least 13% are orphans under the age of 18. The Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Agre David Chibenge, cited that government will use this data to develop sustainable solutions for children's welfare.
Put in place a comprehensive review, a mechanism for doing a comprehensive review and analysis of this data and all other data that has been generated, to adopt this evidence as a baseline for all ongoing and future child-focused interventions, and implement targeted policy and programmatic reforms to address identified service delivery gaps or challenges.
In the report, there are disparities between orphaned and non-orphaned children, showing higher rates of child labor and school dropouts cases among orphaned children. Statistics also indicate that child mothers are higher among orphans at 2.1% compared to 1.4% for non-orphans.
The prevalence of child mothers was higher among orphans than non-orphans. The prevalence of child mothers was highest in Bunyoro sub-region and lowest in Kampala, and the prevalence of child mothers was highest in Namayingo district and lowest in Chisoro and Kabong at 0.3%.
In rural areas, orphanhood is at 14% compared to 12% in urban areas. Karamoja sub-region, West Nile, and Madi leading.
Studies, we have established that a high percentage of these children, and incidentally come from the part of Karamoja which where the economic activities even permit farming, napak. The biggest percentage of the children that come from Karamoja, who are not only in Kampala, but even in other cities like Mbale, the phenomenon of street children has been growing over the years.
Districts with the highest statistics of orphans include Yumbe, Bududa, Ntoroko, and Luengo.
This week, the Constitutional Court nullified the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022, describing the legislation as unconstitutional. The move awakens discussions on how Parliament can improve its legislation to ensure that the supreme law is not diluted.
To what extent is authentic nation building dependent on the balance between constitutionalism, patriotism, and what are the risks of one emphasized at the expense of the other?
Patriotism and democratic maturity have been highlighted as critical pillars in strengthening the rule of law and advancing constitutionalism. The discussion brought together ICT and National Guidance Minister Dr. Chris Baryomonsi, Busiro East MP Segona Lubega, Makerere University Deputy Vice Chancellor Sarah Sali, former Makerere University Business School Principal Waswa Balunya, and legal expert Isiko Arthur. Dr. Baryomonsi said sustainable development depends on strict adherence to the Constitution, while Segona Lubega emphasized institutional independence and transparency as the foundation of public trust.
It will still take a lot of civic engagement, civic education, educating our people to appreciate that sense of patriotism.
The penalty for these offenses, honorable members, while they should not be, they should actually be deterrent. They should be deterrent. They should stop you. They're not corrective. So when you're looking for a deterrent penalty, you're looking for something that stops you from doing something and not corrective.
This was on 8th September 2022 when the 11th Parliament passed the Computer Misuse Amendment Bill 2022 into law.
You know, once somebody shares a bad thing about you, you get to know that indeed you go to penalize people as a deterrent measure. Even that 500 is small.
Nobody has ever shared information about you. Let it be shared one time. That's when you will know. That's when you will know that it is very bad. Even what the committee is proposing is very small.
Madam Chair.
It's very small. If I was the one to propose,
The Speaker of Parliament, Anita Monk, said the move could attract a litigation process.
I can hear you. If you want to go to court,
all right,
please do. Let's create work for court. Let's not remain, everything should remain here.
In October 2022, President Museveni agreed with the Parliament's position to enact laws to regulate social media, curbing hate speech, and prohibiting the unauthorized recording or sharing of information about individuals. But a group of Ugandans challenged the act in court.
And among the contentious issues we find in this law is that, one, it is vague and ambiguous.
The Constitutional Court pronounced itself, declaring the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022 null and void, citing inconsistencies during its enactment and contravening the Constitution of Uganda. 5 judges, including Irene Mulyagonja and John Mike Musisi, agreed that the House passed the Computer Misuse Amendment Bill 2022 without the required quorum.
It was a good act, because when those boys begin to abuse you on social media, they begin to demean you, your family, your children, and others. It was maybe a good law. A growth in when it was immature. It was still immature. They needed time to go through it, to appreciate it, to make it conform with the Constitution.
Among the concerns occasionally voiced out include limited consultations with stakeholders during the processing of various bills in Parliament.
In Liberia, for every sitting of Parliament, you come with a document
a document prepared by researchers showing implications of the decision that you're about to make. So you'd go and make a decision knowing that these are its implications. But yes, like a talk show, people just walk in. Even documents issued yesterday, people leave them at home. And they just walk in with bare hand that they have come to legislate for Uganda.
I want to think that the committees need to provide a much more broader and better spectrum for consultation in as far as bills are concerned. This will allow us to avoid duplicity in some of the pieces of legislation that are passed in Parliament, but also it will help us bridge the gap that is sometimes existing in some of the legislation which we process as Parliament.
The decision to pull down the Act awakens discussions on improvement by Parliament while making laws.
The challenge we have with Uganda, laws are brought when the stakeholders do not want them. So they become a problem. That is why every law that comes, if we don't want it, we go to the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal. Every law, Court of Appeal, every law you go to court. Every law you go to court. Because they lack that universality. They lack the research to appreciate what is the impact of this law. Is it in line, in tandem with the Constitution? Will it have a pass? Do we need it anyway?
The executive needs to prioritize Parliament business during the processing of bills to strike a balance in legislation.
Sometimes when the committees are processing bills, it becomes very hard for them to gain commitment of the ministers, to have full participation of cabinet, so that sometimes by the time we reach a point of presenting reports of committees on bills and definitely bills second reading, sometimes we have shot in all directions. You find that what the committee has presented is not fully conceptualized by the minister. And
this raises a need to understand the impact of any legislation to avoid damage. Daniel Mugoya, Gloria Gwitabinji, UBC News.
Daddy, why don't we pay using MTN Momo, where we stand a chance of winning school fees for a whole year and more? By the way, you can also apply for a school fees loan, and also participating schools can win a school van.
That's right! Win school fees for a whole year and more. Get Momo goodies and a school van for participating schools. You can also apply for a school fees loan. Simply dial *165*80# or use the Momo app.
Mama, only don't tell.
Banange MTN neyanziza.
Tata omwana ogenda mugambako oba wali wano.
Taliwo. Sente zembadde ngenda okusasula ku school fees z'omukulu zigenda kunyambako okuweerera batoobe abalala ababiri. MTN mama ngenkoledde kinene ngasinga omumaamu sirijjerabira obulamu bwange bwonna.
Ngenda kusimya okusasula school fees nyiga *165*880# sasula school fees ng'okozesa Momo. School funds mu masomero tugenda zigaba. Osobola okwewola waliwo school fees loan, genda ofune looni oba otolinawo ssente ozisasule mu bbanga mpola mpola obulamu butambulenga buli koona.
Welcome back from that break, and we're glad you're still with us here in UBC News Tonight. And more stories this evening. Ugandan alumni at the University of Reading have praised the institution's strong work ethics and culture for being transformative and globally enriching. This is during the global community meeting to mark 100 years of the university's existence, which was established in 1926.
You have impacted us. Happy centenary.
Studying abroad is a story worth telling. Ugandan alumni who studied at the University of Reading in the United Kingdom have shared their experiences since graduation, commend the university for shaping their careers.
What I picked up and why we are so proud to be associated with the university is the work ethic and the culture that they instilled in us. The issue of submitting assignments on time. The issue of delivering results and outputs is something that we picked up from the University of Reading.
For me, the best experience in University of Reading was basically finding their methods or their modes of training or teaching was completely different.
Led by the Chief Government Valuer, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Gilbert Kemundu, the group highlights the institution's strong work ethics and culture.
I feel very proud that the way I was nurtured, I was groomed in terms of the professionalism attached to what I do, timekeeping, discipline, networking is so amazing. I'm proud to be part of the 300,000 alumni of University of Reading, currently celebrating the 100 years of existence.
I went there as a very young man, 2007, 2008. As you can imagine, this was my first time to go to Europe. Because I'm a teacher, so it really trained me quite a bit. And I think over time, I think we're talking about how many years? Close to 20 years now, or 19 years. I've been able to pass on the same, the kind of quality science to all the climate scientists we have.
The University of Reading, which was established in 1926, is renowned for strong research focus in agriculture, food science, construction management, law and environmental sciences, from which skills the professions recount.
Obviously, many Ugandans benefit out of this, and in 100 years, they have given us knowledge which we have shared. If you ask anyone here, he will tell you that they have touched someone, they have changed the community, and most alumni of other institutions or universities should emulate what these people are doing.
If anyone wants to join the University of Reading, first you have to have a GPA of at least a second class upper to join, and then you can apply online.
Tony Senaburia compiled the story for ABC News.
Environmental experts advise that achieving lasting behavioral change requires time, consistency in implementation, and active participation from both institutions and households. The Green Vests Initiative and Partners is promoting environmental conservation through schools and communities. Wadulu Mark-Arnold reports.
Uganda's delay to enforce a ban on plastic bags has hindered environmental conservation efforts due to gaps in the law.
The gaps in the law is that we do not have a comprehensive aspect of the law that is putting a total ban. It has left certain aspect of the cavera with the certain microns. And nobody will understand when we talk about the certain microns because the community needs direct things that they understand.
Stakeholders acknowledge that communities lack proper waste disposal systems, which undermine conservation efforts despite increased awareness.
We find that also trucks take a lot of time to come. There are times even where some of these KCA trucks do not even reach in some of the congested areas or in the slum areas. So these people are left with only one solution: to openly dump.
The School Environmental Conference organizers say the strategy is informed by research citing that children are more receptive to mindset change messages compared to adults.
But also having schools that speak environmental stewardship. Can we have talking environment? Children to read. So do we have some environmental clubs in our schools? Because if we don't protect this environment, we shall pay the price. We saw not very long ago, the whole Kampala was flooding. Why is it flooding? Largely because of our behavior. One, we are building in the waterways. Two, we are blocking. We throw cavera, we throw plastic.
Based on the theme, strengthening environmental stewardship in schools, the engagement makes them effective agents of long-term behavioral transformation within communities. However, engaging adults through practical and human-centered approaches is essential for meaningful impact.
Behind the
the conserving of the environment, humanity and humility also still stands. So if you approach me in a rude way, I'll not even actually understand what you're trying to tell me. I'll only pick out the fact that you're being rude. So we are going to get into another scuffle of why you being rude to me. Like, couldn't you tell me politely? And personally, I don't like being backed at, and I don't think anyone likes that. So that's why I feel it's really important to be polite while telling people, because they'll understand it later.
Environmental conservation remains a critical lesson every Ugandan must embrace, particularly given the country's strong reliance on natural resources for livelihood and economic growth. For the younger generations, the emphasis is not only on awareness, but also on actions, practicing what is taught and leading by example. Reporting for UBC News, Wadulo Arnold Mark at Makerere University.
And with that, UBC News Tonight has come to an end. Thank you so much for your company this evening. On behalf of the team who worked tonight, we want to wish you a good night and a happy Eid.
Inspiring Uganda.